Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Brad Lewis with Premier Marketing. We're fortunate enough today to have Sandy Petrie join us on today's call to cover United of Omaha's new long-term care rider. She's going to cover how this rider can help protect your clients and also all the benefits and features that it contains. Sandy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. I know this is an exciting topic, so we're looking forward to hearing all about it today.
Oh, great. Thank you, Brad. I'm excited to talk about this new rider. The new rider, it's available on our two IUL products. That would be the Income Advantage IUL and the Life Protection IUL. If you joined us last week, you heard about these two products and learned about how competitive they are, especially given that our internal costs are so low. Very competitive two products. But today what I wanted to do is talk to you in more detail about the rider itself. It is a reimbursement rider, so it will pay on actual long-term care expenses, whether that be home health care or facility-based care, whatever the cost is, it will pay those actual costs. This rider gives the client the opportunity to access 100% of the death benefits for their long-term care expenses, or if they want to still allocate a portion of the life for long-term care benefits, they can do that as well and keep some life insurance left in the policy. So it's very flexible from that point as far as how they want to structure it. Now, we released this product July 1st. We've seen, great success with it so far as the number of applications that are coming in the door and feedback from the field. So as I mentioned, it's a reimbursement for covered long-term care services. The definition or the qualification or triggers for this rider is the client has to need substantial supervision for a cognitive impairment or unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. There is a 90-day calendar elimination period to access the benefits. So the reimbursement covers expenses from nursing home, assisted living facility, home health care, adult daycare, additional benefits for bed reservation. So if you're not familiar with what bed reservation is, that is if they're in a nursing home and they need to leave the nursing home to go to a hospital, this bed reservation will pay the benefit to the long-term care facility or nursing home facility to reserve their bed so they don't lose their spot in the nursing home or assisted living facility. Respite care covers 1 month per calendar year, no elimination period, and then also hospice care. There is an additional benefit for care coordinator services. These are licensed healthcare professionals that help assess the needs of the individual client and provides an individual plan of care, and they also help arrange for long-term care services. So when they use this care coordinator service, which is completely optional, it can give them additional benefits for stay-at-home caregiver training, durable medical equipment, home modifications, or a medical alert system. The stay-at-home benefits combined are limited to 2 times the maximum monthly benefit amount, and there's no elimination period that applies to that. So they definitely need to take advantage of this if they if they want to stay in their home and they're able to do so if they had home modifications like a stair lift and maybe that medical alert system and caregiver training. This is definitely a way for them to do that. And so it's a substantial benefit when you think about it because most people do want to stay at home. So the long-term care rider itself, as I mentioned, it's only available on the 2 IUL products. If the client never uses the long-term care benefits, their beneficiaries will receive the full death benefit. If they do use long-term care benefits, the death benefit is reduced dollar for dollar by the amount that we pay the long-term care benefit. The accumulation value is reduced proportionately to the long-term care benefit that's received. And then if the long-term care benefits are exhausted, no further long-term care riders are paid. So they do need to keep the life insurance in force. So if they're receiving long-term care benefits and they still need to pay the premium for the life insurance, they don't need to pay the premium for the long-term care rider because that's waived because they're on claim. So they need to make sure they keep the life insurance in force. However, if by chance they do let the life insurance lapse, what will happen is we will continue to pay the long-term care benefits until it is exhausted, and after that, the policy will terminate. So keep that in mind as well. So let's talk about the benefit amounts that are available for this long-term care rider. So what they do is they choose, again, what amount they want available for the long-term care benefit. They can choose a minimum. The minimum is $100,000, maximum is $2 million on the 1 and 2% acceleration percentage, and $1.25 million on the 4% acceleration percentage. So this is an example here of how that would work. So let's say they have a $200,000 policy. You multiply that by the monthly acceleration percentage. The top row there says 4%. So that would give them $8,000 maximum monthly benefit. If they had a $500,000 available for long-term care and they had a 2% acceleration, that would give them $10,000 maximum monthly benefit. And as you can see by this chart, it just depends on what they choose for the amount available for long-term care or the monthly acceleration percentage. The maximum monthly benefit is $50,000, so they can't go above $50,000. So keep that in mind when you're talking to your clients. One thing with this is that if they have, say, a $10,000 maximum monthly benefit and the actual charges were, say, only $8,000, that $2,000 stays into the policy, which could be used at a later time. So even though they don't have to use or try to get to that maximum benefit amount, if they are under what it's going to do, it is going to just lengthen the time that they're going to have long-term care benefits available to them. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the cost on this, it's an upfront cost, so they do pay a cost of insurance for the life insurance and for the rider. There's no discount on the back end, similar to the chronic illness rider. The cost of the rider for the long-term care rider is guaranteed not to increase. And then once they're receiving long-term care benefit riders, the rider charges are waived, as I mentioned, and the life insurance policy and other rider charges will continue. This rider is available for ages 30 to 79. It's not available if the life insurance is a table 4 or if there's flat extras. The long-term care has separate underwriting risk classes than the life insurance policy. So they can be a table 3 for life insurance or a preferred for life insurance, but we're going to look at the long-term care separately, and there's 4 risk classes that are available: preferred, standard, substandard class 1, and substandard class 2. And it does have its own separate underwriting guide, which is very thorough and very detailed as far as the coverages and giving you underwriting information on the long-term care. One of the benefits with ours is that the underwriting for the long-term care is done by the life underwriters. So there's no handoff between 2 different sets of underwriters, which is a huge benefit because it's not going to cause delays in that handoff, and that underwriter is already going to know this case because they've underwritten for the life insurance part of it. So if you're familiar with our life insurance products, we do have what's called fit credits. Those are available to get a client who may be a table 4, table 3, 2, or 1 down to a standard. So the long-term care underwriting risk classes are not affected by that FIT credits, and they just don't apply to the long-term care part of it. So with our Income Advantage and Life Protection Advantage products, we have a built-in chronic illness rider. So what happens with that is that if the client chooses not to apply for the long-term care rider, that's their option, they don't have to, they will still get the chronic illness rider. And what that is that will allow them to have access to the death benefit for a chronic illness. It just works a little bit differently. And I have some slides to kind of illustrate the difference between the long-term care rider and the chronic illness rider in an upcoming slide. So hold your questions on that one. Hopefully I'll get them answered. Now, if they're declined for the long-term care rider, they'll also still get this chronic illness rider, and that's a huge benefit. We're one of the only carriers in the industry that allows that. We don't underwrite for the chronic illness rider. If they qualify for life insurance, they still get this rider. So if you're talking with a client, you're talking to them about the IUL policies. They really like Mutual of Omaha. They like our strong brand. They like what we stand for. They like that we've been around for 100 plus years, and that we're strong, stable, and secure. You've already convinced them that United of Omaha, Mutual of Omaha is the carrier for them to go to. So if they are declined for this long-term care rider, this chronic illness rider is definitely a backup for them, and you don't have to go in and try to sell another carrier because you've already sold them on United of Omaha. With this chronic illness rider, as I mentioned, there's no age, face amounts, or risk class limitations. If they qualify for long-term life insurance, they get this chronic illness rider. So some other features with this is that the targets, minimums, no lapse premiums will increase in conjunction with the rider, and the GROW rider is still available. So the GROW rider, that's the guaranteed refund option rider. What that is if for some reason the market is tanking and the universal life policy is not performing as they expected it to, they have the option to get their premium back. So the way that works, in year 15, they will get 50% of their premiums back. In years 20 through 25, they can get 100% of their premiums back. So keep that in mind with this if the client is concerned about an IUL policy. We do have some guarantees with our policies, but this is always a backup option to ease the mind of your client that they won't lose by going with this policy. Okay, so I mentioned we released this July 1st. You'll see the states that it's available in there. We approved 2 more states, August 1st, Arizona and South Dakota. We filed in all states, but there are some that just have not approved yet. We do expect Delaware, District of Columbia, Indiana, North Dakota, and Virginia to approve real soon. But we do expect that California, Florida, Hawaii, Montana, New Jersey will take just a little bit longer. Okay, so let's talk in more detail about this chronic illness rider versus the long-term care rider. Okay, so when you're looking at this side by side, I think this is a good representation of how this rider works. The chronic illness rider, all ages, all risk classes. The long-term care rider is restricted by age and by up to Table 4 underwriting on the life insurance part of it. The chronic illness rider, there's no additional underwriting. It's automatically included with the policies at no additional cost unless they apply and get the long-term care rider. The long-term care rider does require additional underwriting. And then let's look at the cost on here. So the chronic illness rider, there's no additional upfront charges for this. However, if they do use it, they do accelerate. The benefit amount is reduced by an actuarial discount and a flat $100 fee. So the actuarial discount is calculated based on the insured's remaining life expectancy and the current Moody's corporate bond yield average. And so the cost is not known until the time the benefit is being requested. So if you could imagine, if their life expectancy is 10, 15 years, you multiply that by the Moody's corporate bond yield, which right now I think is about 4.5%, that discount can get quite high. But if the client needs the coverage, needs the money, it's definitely an option for them. Now, if your client never uses the benefit, the accelerated rider for the chronic illness, there's not going to be any charge for it. Okay, versus the long-term care rider, the cost is known up front. It's a recurring monthly cost of insurance, and it can't be increased, unlike traditional long-term care, which that is a possibility that the traditional standalone long-term care could increase. And the client will be charged regardless of whether the client ever uses the long-term care benefits. Okay, so the long-term care cost of insurance on a life insurance rider is a lot lower than, say, a traditional standalone long-term care, and they have the benefit of also having the life insurance protection. So it is a little bit of a trade-off. It gives the client options as far as which way they want to go to help cover some of those long-term care expenses later on down the road. So for the chronic illness rider, the maximum total benefit is 80% of the specified amount of the policy. So 80% of the initial death benefit up to $1 million. So at claim time, the client decides how much benefit they need, and it's available in a lump sum with no restrictions on the use of the benefit. So we're not saying that they have to use this lump sum of money for long-term care expenses. They can use it for whatever they want. If they just have medical bills that they need to pay, or if they want to take a family vacation, kind of the last hurrah type thing with their family, spend as much time with them, they can use that money to do that. It's up to them. They are limited based on the HIPAA maximum at time of claim. So that is the IRS per diem. That is just an IRS rule that states that in any given 12-month period, they can't take out any more than what the IRS per diem is that year. So right now, it's like $310 per day. So it's a significant amount of money. With the long-term care rider, the maximum total benefits are based on the amount that they chose at the time of issue, with a maximum of $2 million available for the 1 and 2, as I explained, and $1.25 million for the 4%. And qualifying long-term care expenses are reimbursed instead of in a lump sum. So whatever the actual long-term care expenses are, that is the amount they're going to get up to the maximum monthly benefit that they chose at the time of issue. Chronic illness rider, they can only access that every 12 months. So the clients really need to estimate how many expenses they will incur over the coming year. And then the long-term care rider, benefits can be paid until the maximum total benefit is exhausted for that month or for the total. Qualifications for benefits on the chronic illness and also the long-term care, they're similar. Unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living or severe cognitive impairment. The chronic illness rider is indemnity, so there's no restrictions on the use of benefits. They just have to provide proof that they're chronically ill. The long-term care rider is a reimbursement rider. So again, we'll reimburse actual charges up to the maximum monthly benefit. The chronic illness rider is the benefits are received income tax free. It qualifies under Section 101G of the Internal Revenue Code. And for the long-term care rider, that qualifies under the 7702B of the Internal Revenue Code. And then the death benefit, any remaining death benefit that's not accelerated, either with the chronic illness rider or the long-term care rider, will be payable to the beneficiary. So there are some distinct differences between these two. And let me give you an illustration of somebody who bought a policy that has a chronic illness rider and somebody who bought a policy that has the long-term care rider. Okay, so in this case study, we have a male preferred. He has $1 million life insurance policy at age 50. Let's say at age 75, he becomes chronically ill. So he's unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living or severe cognitive impairment. Let's just say that his long-term care expenses are $16,000 per month or $192,000 per year. Okay, in this example, we're going to show this client having a 5-year life expectancy. Okay, so with the long-term care rider, we would need to take $192,000 in long-term care rider benefits to get $192,000, right? 25 years of long-term care rider cost of insurance is $26,000. So the remaining death benefit is $808,000, and the remaining amount that can be accelerated is $108,000, okay? With the chronic illness rider, they would need to take $247,870 in chronic illness benefits to get the $192,000. That is because of the cost on the back end for this coverage. Remember, life expectancy times the Moody's corporate bond yield average, okay? So the remaining death benefit in this scenario would be $752,130, and the available amount that they can accelerate at a later time would be $552,130. So that's kind of a big difference when you look at it side by side. But again, if you have a client that is concerned about paying long-term care premiums that they will never use, the chronic illness rider is a great backup because if they don't use it, they're not paying for it. Now, if somebody had a 2-year life expectancy, again, with the long-term care rider, same thing. They take out $192,000 for their long-term care benefits. The cost of the rider, $26,000, remaining death benefit, and remaining acceleration, $808,000. Now, with the chronic illness rider, because their life expectancy is 2 years, they'll need to take $211,100 in chronic illness benefit riders to get the same $192,000. Again, you look at the discount rate, and the remaining death benefit, $788,900, and remaining accelerated amount, $588,900. Okay, let's just say that this person, unfortunately, he died at age 75 without needing long-term care services. With the long-term care rider, he would have paid cost of $2,600 or $26,000, but he still has his remaining death benefit of $1 million. With the chronic illness rider, again, he didn't use it, so he didn't pay for anything for the chronic illness rider, and so his cost was 0, and he has a remaining death benefit of $1 million, okay? Now, let's look at another scenario here. How to preserve your client's estate. So, you know, many people, they work a lifetime to accumulate those assets to pave the way for a comfortable retirement and leave an inheritance to the children. And the last thing they want to do is see all of their hard-earned savings depleted to pay for long-term care services. So long-term care services, however, can quickly erode a client's assets. Almost 70% of the people over the age of 65 will require chronic care later in life for an average of 3 years. And 20% of those individuals will need care for longer than 5 years. Okay, so, excuse me, the national average for a semi-private room in a nursing home is $86,000 plus. If your client needs 3 years of long-term care, that equals $260,000 plus. If your client needs 5 years of long-term care, that equals $433,000 plus. These numbers are based on 2016 numbers. So consider this. What's the cost going to be in 25 years down the road when they need care? Okay, they purchased this at age 50, around 50. Let's say at age 75, they need care. That's 25 years. So the national average for that same semi-private room is now $181,000 plus. If your client needs coverage for 3 years, that's $544,000 plus. And if he needs coverage, long-term care services for 5 years, that's over $900,000. So that's very, very expensive. So let's look at a case study that can help with this. So we have Nick. He plans to use accumulated wealth for retirement income. So he also wants to leave that inheritance for his 3 children. At age 75, he becomes chronically ill and requires long-term care services. His remaining assets are worth $1 million. And this is assuming his nursing home costs remain the same throughout the entire stay. Okay. All right, so here you have Nick. He purchases a $1 million life protection advantage policy, chooses the long-term care rider, and wants to accelerate the maximum. So $1 million for long-term care services. He chooses the 2% option, so that's going to give him up to $20,000 in reimbursement expenses for long-term care. So when he needs the long-term care services at age 75, he incurs qualifying expenses of just over $15,000 per month, or $181,000 plus per year for that semi-private room in the nursing home. So let's say he resides there for 4 years before he passes away. Over this 4-year period, he is reimbursed for the 4 years of long-term care, which totals $726,000 plus. Okay, so when he passes away, his beneficiaries receive the remaining $273,000 as a death benefit, and he still has his remaining $1 million in assets. So when you take that total, the death benefit plus his remaining assets, and you divide that amongst his 3 children, that's $424,000 plus that each child will receive. Okay, now let's look what happens if Nick doesn't prepare for long-term care expenses. Okay, so at age 50 again, he purchases a life insurance policy. Well, let's see, he decides to self-insure. Let's say that. So when he goes into this nursing home at age 75, he starts taking out $181,000 per year from his savings to pay for that semi-private room. Again, he stays there for 4 years. Over that 4-year time, again, he pays the $726,000 in long-term care services. The long-term care expenses reduces $1 million in assets down to $273,000. So each of his children receives an inheritance of $91,000. Now that's a significant difference between if he had the life insurance with the long-term care rider on it, and if he didn't plan ahead for long-term care. And it depends on the client. I mean, if they really want to cover themselves for long-term care, leave their children an inheritance, not run out of money when they need long-term care, this is definitely the way they go. One thing, too, with this scenario is that depending on the type of assets that he had, he could have paying like unexpected capital gains tax or income tax and potential surrender charges generated from asset liquidation. Or he could just miss out on returns the liquid assets were expected to generate. Now, what happens if you have younger clients? Why haven't they purchased long-term care insurance? Well, it's quite simply, they're young, they might not realize that they need it. They can't imagine themselves in a nursing home, or they just don't want to pay for something now that they might not use, or they think they're going to be paying too long for long-term care, or, if they spend the money on the long-term care, what if they never wind up needing it? So let's say you have a 40-year-old healthy male, and he purchases $500,000 in life insurance, and he plans to pay $275 per month. So this policy provides a lump sum of money at his death because of the death benefit. He also purchases the long-term care rider that also has the $500,000 available. So with the monthly long-term care benefit percentage, he chooses 2%, which allows him to receive $10,000 maximum monthly benefit for his covered long-term care expenses. Okay, let's say Bob dies at age 50. Well, his beneficiaries receive the full $500,000 death benefit. If Bob dies at age 60 before needing long-term care, they'll still receive the same $500,000 benefit. Now, note here, it's showing what the total premiums for the long-term care would be. So, in reality, the gain on that is $434,000. But if Bob needs long-term care at age 70 and uses 2 years of the maximum benefits and then he passes away, he will have taken $240,000 in long-term care rider benefits. The remaining $260,000 will be paid to his beneficiaries as a death benefit, and in addition, he'll have kept his estate intact because he didn't have to tap into the personal assets to pay for the long-term care. Okay, what if Bob needs long-term care at age 70 and he uses the full $500,000 death benefit for the long-term care services? He'll stop receiving benefits, of course, because he's used it all. And at this point, Bob will have to tap into his personal access to pay for the long-term care. But by having the life insurance policy, he didn't have to tap into $500,000 of his personal assets for the last 4 years. Now, these are just some examples. Every client is different, but it definitely makes sense to talk to your clients about long-term care. They know they need life insurance, but a lot of them, especially the younger ages, don't realize how much they need long-term care unless they personally experienced it. They've seen their parents or grandparents struggle to pay for the cost of care. So definitely talk to them about it. For the long-term care rider, we have tremendous support for this product's marketing material that includes that rider information and underwriting guide, a very nice long-term care client brochure. We have presentations that you can look at. These are all available on our website. That would be, I'll show you that here coming up, what that address is for the website, which contains all this material. Some nice pieces on licensing requirements, selling long-term care to clients, younger clients, and how to protect assets, etc. You can find all of this material at www.mutualofomaha.com/LTC-rider. There's also cost of care study brochures that are available and average cost per state for long-term care, and that's in printed version, so you can clearly show your clients what the cost of care is going to be. There's even a calculator out there in which you can put the state that the client lives in and assume a inflation rate and years until care is needed, and it will give you the actual or estimated cost of what the care is going to be needed in the future. This is powerful because it really does show the client how much the cost of long-term care is going to increase in the future. Okay, with that, I will open it up for any questions.
Thanks so much, Sandy. Yeah, we do have a few questions here. Actually, well, we've got one question so far, but if you do have questions, please enter them in on the chat screen so we can get those answered for you today. The first question is from Michael. Can the LTC rider be canceled in the future and keep the policy with the chronic illness rider?
Okay, so the long-term care can be canceled in the future. However, remember, if they have the long-term care rider on the policy initially, the chronic illness rider is not included, and they will not be able to add that in after the policy is issued.
Thank you. What is the definition of nursing home or to qualify for the long-term care rider?
What is the definition of nursing home?
Yeah, to define what qualifies for them to receive the benefits.
Okay. Well, what qualifies them to receive the benefits is just the two triggers. So the two triggers are they're unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, or they have a severe cognitive impairment. So that is up to the client as far as where they want to receive their care in a nursing home or a home health care or an assisted living facility. So we're not going to tell them where they get their care. We just have that requirement of how they qualify or what the triggers are to receive the benefits.
All right, thank you. Another question, can you arrange for direct payments to the care facility rather than paying and wait for the reimbursement?
Yes, you can definitely assign those benefits over to a facility.
All right, perfect. And then Irma had an underwriting question in regards to if they have diabetes or cancer. I don't know if you can touch on that or not, or if we just would have to see the full case.
Yeah, definitely we need to see the full case on that, but I do have the underwriting guide in here, and definitely there is some restrictions on cancer, and it just depends on the site of the cancer and the stage of the cancer, if it's a single cancer or multiple cancers, so really would need more specific details on that. And if you did have a specific case where you wanted to speak with the underwriters on that, our underwriters are available to you to speak with. We don't lock our underwriters in a room. We definitely want you to have that open line of communication. We have a status line that you can contact, and they can give you their best, not guess, but their best estimate of what the risk class is going to be based on the information that you give them.
Okay, thank you for touching on that. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is if you wanted to or needed to contact the underwriters, you can by calling 800-693-6083. That'll get you into like the sales support area, and they can get you over to the underwriters if you have a specific question.
Okay. And then the next question, any idea on the state of Florida when approval would happen with that? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's just completely up to the state insurance department as far as when they approve that. Again, I said that we did file there, and we do have a follow-up procedure with the state. We can't, call them every week, but I think it's like every month or every 2 months we go back to the state and ask for a status. But they don't like it if we call them every week. So we're trying to get it approved, as well as California and some of the other states that are a little bit tougher, but we really are just at their mercy.
And then that underwriting number, Sandy, can you repeat that again, please?
Yes, that's 800-693-6083, and that will get you to the sales support area, and just let them know that you had a long-term care rider underwriting question.
Okay. And then the next question is in reference to the appointment process to be able to sell and offer the product to your clients. If they currently have a Mutual of Omaha for LTC appointment, the question was, do they need a separate appointment for life?
They don't need a separate appointment. They need a United of Omaha appointment. If you're contracted for the health products, you probably have a Mutual of Omaha appointment, but you need a United of Omaha appointment, and you have to have the life products on your contract, which is just a matter of sending in a transmittal if you don't have one. And the only other thing that you would need to do is the life insurance requires anti-money laundering training. which is just about 15 minutes. It's available. You can access that training through our website and get connected with LIMRA. That's who does our anti-money laundering training.
Yep, and we'd be happy to help you get appointed here as well, so we can go through that process as well. So, and then can you put up the slide that has the brain sharks on it, those links as well again?
Right. All of those links are actually out on this website right here, mutualofomaha.com/LTC-writer. You don't need a login for this site. Anybody can access it. It does have all of the brain charts that are right here on there, so you can just go to that website and click on each of the brain charts within that site, so you don't have to type in the addresses of the brain charts.
Perfect, and there's some great resources there. There's a ton of information, and all of it's very professional and done very well. So, and then looks like the last question I have so far is if you could show the state availability chart again as well. What states the product's approved in.
Yeah, let me get to that. That's right there. So almost 40 states so far have approved. Again, in the bottom that says not approved there, the states that are in blue, we really expect them to be approved very soon. It's just those tough states like California, Florida, Hawaii, Montana, New Jersey that we expect to take a little bit longer.
Okay, and then one other clarifying question on the chronic illness rider. The question is the chronic illness rider not available with the LTC rider?
Yeah, that's correct. So the chronic illness rider is automatically included at no cost with the IUL policies. However, if they apply for the long-term care rider and they get it, means they're approved for the long-term care rider, the chronic illness rider is not included with their policy. So they can have one or the other, but they can't have both.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a quote tool available for this product?
Yes, sorry, I did not mention that. So to quote this product, you actually have to use WinFlex and quote the IUL product. So the long-term care rider, we see probably more on our Life Protection Advantage IUL, which is the Life Protection IUL versus the Cash Accumulation IUL, just because that's more in line with the structure and what the clients are purchasing the coverage for, is the life insurance protection with the long-term care rider. So when you're using WinFlex, you go to either product because it's available on either product, quote the IUL, and then on the rider tab, that is where you'll see the long-term care rider that you will add that, and you'll be able to specify the percentage of the death benefit you want available for long-term care and the percentage of the acceleration to get your maximum monthly benefit. What's nice about that is the illustration will actually show you the length of time that if they use the maximum monthly benefit of the long-term care rider, how long that's going to last, et cetera. So definitely take advantage of that. If you have any issues like running and illustration, definitely you can contact Premier and they would be able to help you out with that.
Let's see, I'm just going to check and make sure I don't have any other questions here. Asking about a first to die companion option on the product, if that's available.
We don't have a first to die option on this policy.
Okay, it's all just single life.
Correct.
And then just clarification again on the chronic illness and the LTC rider, as far as you can have one but not the other, or but not both. Someone asking to repeat that again, just how that works one more time.
Okay, so if you're applying for one of our IUL policies, it automatically comes with the chronic illness rider, and there's no cost for that rider, and there's no underwriting for that rider. If the client wants to apply for the long-term care rider, they can do that. If they are approved for the long-term care rider, they do not get the chronic illness rider on their policy. So they can have one or the other, they just can't have both, the chronic and the long-term care rider on their policy.
All right, perfect. Thanks for clarifying that, Sandy.
Yep, no problem.
That looks like that includes all of our questions for today. So obviously, very exciting topic with this long-term care rider and with a great company in United of Omaha. A ton of great resources. So I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to join us on the call today, and especially thank you, Sandy, for taking time out of your day to explain how the product works and where, more importantly, where it fits with all these clients, the examples that you showed us as well. So again, thanks everyone for being on the call, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day. If you need anything, please call 800-365-8208. Ask for a life marketer, and we'd be happy to help you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.